The book that I chose was The Financial Diaries. It's by Jonathan Morduck and Rachel Schneider. It was published in 2017, and the book is just as it says. It's Financial Diaries. They followed some families that were just above the poverty line with at least one employed family member. The findings they found were that most families were struggling with needing stability over mobility, meaning they were struggling with when they got their money, not exactly how much of the money they got. Um, they touched on things like how the job market makes it hard to find predictable work. People were getting sent home when labor's bad, for instance, or working off commission. It also talks about how loans or credit cards can become a trap for these kind of families where they depend on them to get by and can get over their heads really easy. The book shows a real need for programs um, that can help these kinds of families. It also talks about a few of the programs that are trying to help them, but really hasn't so far. Um, I really like the last sentence in the book, and I really feel like it sums it up. It says, "Our challenge is to help people feel more secure and in control day by day and week by week." For my review, I would definitely recommend this book. I feel like this is an issue that most of us are probably facing in our lives or going to face at some point. Like, we all know how the economy is. I really enjoyed how each chapter really like brought you in, like it had a hook. So it really made it hard for me to want to put it down sometimes. It was very easy to read. I really liked how it was structured, and it was really easy for me. Um, and I also liked how they focused on day to day lives of these people versus the yearly income, and they really kind of got to see where the gaps were that everyone's overlooking. Um, a lot of the problems that they addressed, I was like, wow, how true. It was also really nice to read how people like ourselves who can be struggling in these kind of situations were still so willing to give to like friends and family that was in need. That's kind of uplifting to me. I wish it were a better ending. I wish I could say they solved all the problems, they created programs that helped these families, and everyone lived happily ever after. However, I realize that's very unrealistic. I did enjoy how they did touch on how some people were trying to get some stuff in place and they have got some stuff started that really didn't take off, and some things that are still kind of in the works. Um, like they're trying to find solutions to this, and that I thought that was pretty neat that they took their time to really care about these families and what was going on with them. Um, some of the stuff that was talked about was like stuff that I could relate to in life, like how it talked about having to go home early because of labor and stuff. Like at one point, I was a manager and I was the one having to kind of make those decisions for people, and how it touched on like loans and debit card debt and how that can be really easy to fall into a trap. Right now, I work at a bank and I see people who struggle with this every day. Like it is great options for some people, but some people it really can do more damage than good. And they touch on that and really talk about that in the book. And it's really eye opening to it just gets you thinking about stuff that normally you wouldn't have. I really found it awful how families were having to choose between, hey, I'm going to pay this bill this month or this bill this month. It really gets into the day to day lives. Um, and it just boils down to insecurity and instability. And I really do believe like that was really a struggle we all have. And I really liked how they touched on it and handled it. And I would 10 out of 10 recommend this book to others. For my lesson plan, I focused on the first grade standard, explain the concept of using money to acquire goods and services to satisfy needs and wants. So the book talked a lot about how families were getting what they needed, how families couldn't get some of the wants that they wanted because of the struggles they were having, and how some families would take the time to do vacation even though they would struggle later. So, I mean, I thought it was a good lesson for needs and wants. So for my lesson, I found a cute activity online that I want to use in my lesson, and it was where students can role play in the shopping experience. Well, first off, I would explain to the students what a good is, what a need is, what a service is, wants, what wants are. And then we would proceed with this activity where they can take turns. At one point, they'll be the shopper, and at other point, they'll be the ones that are providing the goods or services. Um, and in this activity, each student gets a certain amount of money they can spend, and once that's gone, or they can choose to not spend it and save it for later. And it'll just kind of get them the idea of what a good is, what a want is, and what they want to spend their money on. And then after they do this activity, we'll then have a discussion about what they chose and why. Were they satisfied with what they chose? Did they wish they could have got other stuff? Get them thinking and talking about what goods is and what wants is and how it can help them. And then for the assessment for it, they'll have to answer questions on a little index card or a paper. Just say, what's one thing you bought? Was it a need? Was it a want? Was it a service? Why did you choose that? And do you feel good about spending your money on that item? And what would you have done differently? And then for my 3 strategies, I chose experience or simulation learning. So when we do that activity, that'll be that. I feel like this is helpful for all learning types. It gets everybody involved, and students get to really submerge into the experience. Another would be real life connections. Students have been with their parents to the grocery store, they've been with them to buy their stuff. They're going to do it in their future lives. They really can make good real life connections with this. And then the third strategy I chose was compare and contrast. What's a good versus a want? For some people, this could be a want, and other people, it could be something they really need. Just comparing, contrasting, and making those connections with goods and wants as well. Thank you.